Here's our search.jsp. Inside this JSP, we are going to include page search.css and headbar page.jsp. So what this search.css is, it is a style sheet which will organize the structure of the layout on this page, right? And remember, if you include the page like this, you are going to put it into the same folder where this search.jsp is. So now we put it inside the same folder. Okay. And here you can see two libraries, JSTL 1.2 jar and JSTL standard jar. Well, in order to use the C tag and format tag, we have to have these two libraries inside the lib under the web info folder. So to start with, we have the title of the page as welcome, and then we will have the welcome to DBLP message, and then we will have a form. So where this form is this part of the page. So in order to have a text field or a button like this, you have to put them inside form so that you can pass the values via the request when you press the submit button. Let's take a look at the first text field and submit button in the JSP. So for the text field, we are going to have a span over here, and what this does is to enable a hover text effect. So as you can see here, if I hover my mouse or my cursor on top of this text field, it's going to display some text. And then to have a placeholder, you can see a title here. We are going to have placeholder equals to the text that you want to display, like this, right? So the structure of this is you surround your input tag with the span, okay? And then if that's a text field, then tab is equal to text. And then for the submit button, the type will be submit, right? So I'm setting the attribute name or parameter name as button name, and the value is equal to search, right? And then for the additional details, which is this one, they're very similar to the first text field. However, because we are going to save the preferences of this advanced search, we are going to store it inside the variable. For example, for author, we are going to store this value inside search author, and then if that's the publisher, then we are going to store it inside the search publisher. So we store the value inside this parameter search author. So if we do value is equal to this one, then it's going to get the parameter from the request, right? And if there is no such parameter called search author, then it's going to be a null value, and then it's not going to be displayed inside the text field. Okay. So similar to the other, right? And then for the buttons here, so if we want to have buttons like this, which is not the submit button, then we are going to use the button tag. So button type is equal to button, and then if we want to have a onClick function here, then we are going to have onClick is equal to the function name, and then we have the text for it. So let's take a look at the functions here. So I've used JavaScript to write this function. So this is function name, and then it's going to call the reverse button, and this is the ID, right? And this reverse button function takes the ID and then search for the particular element. And since I know that this ID is from a checkbox, so I'm going to check if this box is checked. Okay, so if it's false, I return it to true. If it's true, I return it to false. That's why it's called a reverse button. And to add the ID to a particular element is really simple. So inside this input tag, I will just put ID is equal to the ID name. Right. And for checkbox, you will always have the value as selected as convention. And I'm going to check if this checkbox has been checked from the previous preference. And if it is, then I'm going to check it. Otherwise, I'm not going to print this inside the HTML, which will leave it blank. or unchecked. Right? And then now we move to the result list. So class is equal to result table. So class is equal to result table. This is for the CSS. Right? And then now we use choose and when tag. What they do is equivalent to the if and else clause inside the Java code. So since in C tag there's no else other than if, it has to when and otherwise to serve that purpose. Okay. So I will first have choose and then when, and then I will declare test here. Okay, if the item list has size more than 0, right? Then execute this code. So here is the calculation of the paging, right? And then inside this double quote, we can just do like the Java code style. Okay, item list dot size or current page times item per page and then -1. Okay, and then inside the table, we have 3 columns, right? Item, tab, and add card. We have th tag for the headings, and tr tag to indicate they're in the same row, and then this is the for each block of the C tag. So inside this for each tag, you can have begin and end. Well, this specifies the range of the for each loop, and items equals to the collection, and for each variable, we're going to name it item. Okay, so in this line we have the hypertext, and we're using the HTML XPath as the parameter, and we will set the button name as item page. So you can see here we use the question mark to separate the address and the parameters, and if we have more than one parameter, we're going to use the and sign to separate the parameters. Okay. And for the last column, we will have the add button. So we're going to put this submit button inside the form, and then we will have the current page and HTML XPath as the hidden variable. So they're going to pass via the request but not shown on the page itself. Okay. And here's a for loop which checks if the item is already inside the cart. If it is inside, then I'm going to disable the button, otherwise leave it as it is. Okay. And at the end of this table, I'm going to have the next and previous button. So I'm going to put this button inside the form as well. So I'm going to calculate if I need the previous button or if I need the next button, depending on the page that we are at. And if there is no result, we are going to display sorry, there's no result for the search. And that's all about this search.jsp. And now I will show you the headbar page. Here. It's a very simple page. So it has 2 buttons, card and home. And whether to use the CSS or not is optional. Okay. In the style sheet here, I've used the powder blue for the background color. So you can see it's powder blue. But if you use Bootstrap, you will have much nicer effect. And similar to the search.css, it's a very simple CSS script. So I use the font Lato, and I set the border of the table to 1 pixel and solid red. So now let's look at the item page. So inside this item page, we will include the search.css and the headbar page.jsp. Right, for this item page, we only need to display the info of the particular item that is passed from the servlet. So our very first step is to get the item from the servlet. Well, there are several ways to do it. The first one is to use the useBin tag, or you can just use the code like this, right? So if you are using the useBin tag and you want to set the properties or get the properties, you can use this structure of code, right? And it's more user-friendly for those non-Java developers, but in my assignment I haven't used any of this, so I just did it. Like, and then as you can see, and in this page the first button is add cart, and we're going to surround the button with the form, and we will have the hidden variable as HTML_XR. And I'm going to check if this particular item is already in the cart or not. If it is, I'm going to disable the button. And now after the button, we will display the info of this item. So inside the table, I'm going to display the title using the CL tag. And I will display the authors, since there are more than one author for some of the items. Then I'm going to use a for loop to look through this collection of authors, and then I will have another for each loop for the rest of info. So if you have a hash map as the collection, you can do value equals to info.key and value is equal to info.value, right? So key is the name and value is the value of the parameter. And here's a script that I didn't use. And the last page is the cart page. So cart page is very similar to the home page because both of them have a list. So you see, it's a list of items. Right? The only difference is that for cart we have a remove from cart button instead of the next and previous button. And we also have this effect. If I click this checkbox, it's going to select all of them, right? So let's look at the cart JSP. So just same as the other two JSP, we include the C tag and the format tag, and then we have the headbar page.jsp included as well. And then we have the title as shopping cart, and we have the class as result table for the CSS style sheet. And we will use a choose and when structure. And in this form, the action is equal to search, and method is equal to get. Right? So inside the table, and before the table, I have the field set surrounded. Okay. Why? Because I want to have an outline here, or border for this table. And then inside this table, I have three columns: item, type, and the checkbox. So this checkbox has an effect of check all, right? And then inside the check all function, it checks all the elements with the class link checks, and then set them to true. So let's go back to here, and after the first row, we are going to display the information of the cart item. So I'm going to look through the cart and have a hyperlink, just same as the one we have in the search page or home page. And then we're going to display the author's name and the type of the item. And then we will have the checkbox at the last column. So class equals to checks. And the name of this attribute is called remove item. And value is equal to the key of the item. Right? And at the end of this table, I will have a submit button, which is called remove from cart. And if there's no item inside the cart, then I'm going to display, sorry, there's no item in the cart yet. And this is all about the cart.jsp. I hope you find this workflow video helpful.